The Little Albert experiment. Now let's see this topic. The Little Albert experiment. Can we apply the principle of classical conditioning to human learning also? Now, what does it mean? Is that this same thing about this theory? This is the theory of learning, classical conditioning, learning by association, and it's a full name of this theory of classical conditioning. We saw what is. If you don't know what exactly classical conditioning is, I would highly recommend you to watch the videos about theory of learning part 1, part 2, and part 3. The part 1 is, I guess, named theory of learning. Part 2 is theory of learning part 2, and theory of learning part 3. There we discussed briefly about this topic of classical conditioning, because if you jump in on this video directly, you won't know what exactly classical conditioning is and what is unconditioned stimulus and all that stuff, because again, I explained them in the last few videos. I'll give you the theory of learning part 1, part 2, and part 3, and the last video as well. In the bottom of the description, you might be able to see a black pop-up which will lead you to the bottom of the description. You can watch all those 5 videos properly and then get here. The Little Albert experiment. Can we apply the principle of classical conditioning to human learning also? What does this statement mean? This means the dog experiment, which we saw in the theory of learning part 2 video. That dog, it was done by Ivan Pavlov, who was a physiologist. Around 1889, he done that experiment on the dog. When he saw the its response related to like he was studying the digestion of the dog, and then he saw that his dog used to salivate. He noticed that his dog used to salivate when it used to see the food or see its empty food pan. So he conducted that experiment. Now, if you don't know, watch the videos. I will tell you again to watch those videos. To answer this, John B. Watson conducted an experiment on a 9-month child named Albert B., also famously known as Little Albert. Watson hypothesized that a children's fearful response to a loud noise is an unconditioned response. He further proposed that using the principles of classical conditioning, a child can be made fearful to any neutral stimulus during the baseline condition of the experiment. Watson and his assistants exposed little Albert to a number of stimuli such as white rat, mask, etc. Now, from here, important thing starts. Just the important part of this topic starts. Now, during the baseline condition of this experiment, Watson and his assistants, they exposed this child to a number of stimuli such as white rat, mask, etc. In the control condition, when Albert was exposed to the rat, Albert made a loud noise. This make Albert fearful and he started crying. After a repeating presentation of white rat with a loud noise, he began to cry just after seeing the rat. Now, it's the same thing, just like the dog experiment we see. First, if I were to summarize the topic, in that what Ivan Pavlov did was he first took a neutral stimulus such as bell. So here the neutral stimulus is rat and the mask and all, rabbit and all. Now there it was the bell. In that experiment they used to ring the bell and then the food was followed by it, and then it was continuous, like it was done for multiple times, and then the dog started to give that response of salivating just by the sound of the bell without food. Before it used to give that by seeing the food, give that response of salivating by seeing the food. So it's the same experiment just with the child. After repeated presentation of a white rat with a loud noise, now here the child is fearful of loud noise. So first he didn't react to it, but after repeated presentation of white rat with a loud noise, he began to cry just after seeing the white rat and not hearing the loud noise. Later it was observed that Albert has started to generalize his fear of similar looking white and furry objects here now. What is generalize? Stimulus generalization. It is a principle of classical conditioning. It is in the last video. The last video about the principles. It is named, I guess it is named as principles of classical conditioning. You might be able to see a pop-up. You will be able to see a pop-up in the end of the video on the screen with my channel's logo. That will be that video. You can click on that video and watch it first. Then you will realize what exactly generalized stimulus generalization and discrimination, discrimination is, because it is very important. Later, it was observed that Albert has started to generalize his fear to similar looking of white and furry objects here. Now, here again, just like the dog experiment, we have to see what is neutral stimulus here, what is unconditioned, because you might have got this question after seeing this topic until now, that what exactly is neutral stimulus in this, what is unconditioned stimulus in this and all. Now, let's see all the stimulus. Neutral stimulus here in this experiment is white rat, just like the bell was there in the dog experiment. Unconditioned stimulus is the loud noise. Now, if you don't know these statements, unconditioned stimulus, neutral stimulus, unconditioned response, I discussed about it in the theory of learning part 3 video. Neutral stimulus, unconditioned response, conditioned stimulus, and conditioned response. Now let's see what is it. White rat is neutral stimulus. Unconditioned stimulus is loud noise. Unconditional response is crying and fearful response. Conditioned stimulus is white rat, and conditioned response is crying and fearful emotional response. And that is it for this video. I'll give you some time to take the screenshot. Now I'll see you guys tomorrow. As I always recommend you to subscribe to the channel and on the bell icon to stay notified. And I'll see you tomorrow in the next video. Until then, if you want to leave a like, you can leave a like.